All right, guys. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Wide Angle Wednesday. I am Robert with Zenfolio. Today, we're going to be talking about building your business. We're going to talk about some pitfalls, things you should avoid, some things you should do. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a few seconds to introduce themselves.
Hey, everyone. I'm Grier. I'm an adventure travel photojournalist and also have a wedding and event photography business specializing in destination weddings. I'm based here in Los Angeles, but usually travel all over the world for photography. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm Olie Moss. I have Olie's Images. We specialize in event photography, specifically like horse and rodeo type stuff, mostly timed events, and I have Equine Photo School.
My name is Chung, and I'm a portrait photographer based out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and I specialize in wedding photography.
I am a photographer also in the Bay Area and work with Evan sometimes. And I shoot a lot of events here in the Bay Area and also shoot for the U.S. Olympic Committee. So I've done the last 6 Olympic Games.
If this is your first time hanging out with us for Wide Angle Wednesday, I'm going to explain how it works. We're going to ask our panelist of photographers a question. Everybody's going to get 2 minutes to answer. When you guys hear this sound, that means you are out of time, and we're going to pass it on to the next panelist. First question we're going to give to our panelists today is, when and what made you decide to pursue photography as a career?
So the when is 2007. That was the moment in time when it went from hobby to profession, right? And so there's many years of like leading up and growing in the actual, image making process. But then the business came into 2007, and frankly, it really aligned with all the things that were life-giving, right? The things that get me excited, right? Image making, the creativity of producing work that just, sings, and then just client work. Like I really love working with folks, and especially with people who are getting married. Like, what a day to join them. It's like the happiest day of their life, cliche intended. And then there's all this business stuff that's just fun to do. Like, there's tons of little workflow stuff that is actually really, really important, but there's that little tiny joy of like, ooh, I just, it's the shaving off of a day in your process, or reducing the number of software platforms that you have in order to get all this stuff out to the client. And then there's also that like spreadsheet. That's really exciting. Like, I know how many customers I delivered in less than 2 weeks, and it's just little stuff like that.
Wow, there's so many things that you just said that I've never said in my entire life. Like, so excited about spreadsheets. Like, I love that.
I'm in that boat too. I love some spreadsheets. I think I can call you out on this because it is on your public about page, but correct me if I'm wrong. You still tear up a little bit at weddings, right?
I do. I mean, even in 2020, well, I probably cry in 2020 for lots of reasons. But, when I'm shooting a wedding, like, it's really cool to actually hear their vows. Sometimes you hear vows and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, those are vows. And then sometimes you hear vows and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sucking as a human. I should be doing that more. And that, it just, makes me tear up a little.
Nice.
I really started right when I graduated with my second and third college degrees, I guess, when I was looking for a job, and I got lots of good offers from some really good companies, but I'd been doing photography for about 6 months and making more at that than I was at my real job. And so I just thought, like that's what's really pulling me now is photography. And I'm really close to already making more money with photography than I would at some of these like 6-figure offers that I had. So for me, it was a lot of a financial decision, and a lot of I wanted a lot more free time on my hands, and I was looking at the schedule that I was going to have as a photographer, and the schedule that I was going to have working for somebody, like 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it is, or those long-ish days. They were kind of long at the time, but it just made more sense for me where I was at and at that juncture, that I could say photography was like a once, like I get this opportunity now give this a shot. And there's always another job. There's always somebody hiring for whatever job that I, could get. And that would be really easy to just fall back onto if photography didn't work. So I thought, gonna give it a go, and why not now? Just took the leap, and I bought a trailer, and I kind of like this one here. I'm living in a trailer now, as you can see behind me. But I just bought whatever I could afford at the time. I already had a truck. And so I bought something that could go with, and I just set out and just started going after it. It was the right time for me, and I was already at a juncture, so I thought better just go for it.
Both of my parents were actually CIA growing up, and we were stationed all over the world. So I was doing a lot of traveling at a young age, and kind of obsessed with Indiana Jones and with Jacques Cousteau and like a lot of different explorers out there. So I thought, I wanted to be a zoologist or an archaeologist, marine biologist. That was my dream growing up. And then I kept on just getting in trouble in school for talking too much, like in science class and stuff. And my mom was like, had to talk with me one day when I was 13, like, I don't really see you being a scientist. Like, no, like we got to figure out a job that you can do, that you can, like you can't sit still. You're just like a little too social. And I thought she was crushing my dreams. But actually in that talk, she was like, what if you were like a photographer that like followed around Jacques Cousteau or something like that? And that was my aha moment where I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even know photographers made money. Like I was 13, whatever. And so I only applied to schools, and I applied to different photojournalism schools. I went to Syracuse. I didn't know anything about photography before I went to college. Like I put together some portfolio that I did like one summer of like my girlfriends in costumes, which pretty much is like my life now. It's like nothing much has changed. And I got accepted, and I learned everything I needed to learn in school, which was great because I learned how to do like studio portraiture and all the technical stuff, and I learned on film. And then I kind of decided what I wanted to shoot after that, because once I graduated, I was like, what now? Like, so I did all kinds of stuff before I decided on weddings. Once you know the skill of photography, the opportunities are endless of what kind of job you can do. Every field needs a photographer in some way, shape, or form. So for me, it was just having like a really good education and technical background. And then the rest is just what works with your schedule. I believe in building your business around the schedule you want to have. So if you want to travel, if you want to be home more with your family, like whatever, you can build a photography business around that.
I mean, honestly, I did it on the side for many years. So I was director of marketing at Lexar for like 12 years. And the photo business just kept growing on the side. And I saw it as an opportunity to do something I was more passionate about. I mean, not that I didn't love marketing and didn't love working in the corporate world, but it's something I could follow, something I really loved, the creativity of doing this, trying new things, seeing the world, getting out there. And, the other thing is making the transition from the corporate world to self-employment, essentially. It was something that happened along the road. So the photo business kept growing to the point where I could then move to part-time in the corporate world. And then that just didn't work. And so I just cut that off and just went full-time. And I love the fact that we get to create and have people that come to us and say like, God, I really love the portraits you just took. Or, man, you captured our event just in such a great way. In the corporate world, and you know this, Robert, like Evan, I know you worked in the corporate world too. I mean, still do. That you kind of get that. You don't get that like, wow, what a great job you did. Like it just never happens, right? So when clients come back to you and say like, wow, I really love what you just created, like that's a great feeling. And it's not about the money. It's about just the fact that we did something for people that a lot of people couldn't do.
Where do you recommend to get the best training from a business and marketing perspective?
Is in college, like one of my degrees is in business and marketing. And I think that's a good spot to learn. But I learn a lot in podcasts. I mean, I'm listening to podcasts all the time. And just like a lot of business and marketing podcasts, there's tons and tons of them. I'm sure you can just type it in and look at some of the top charts and start with them. And books. I mean, I listen to lots and lots of audiobooks while I'm shooting. I have kind of a unique job where I just sit in the same spot all the time, and it's kind of mindless what I do. And so a lot of that for me to like kind of make up that time is to listen to an audiobook.
My college degree is in visual media and consumer behavior, and I would spend more time on the business aspects, right? Because those are things that I personally had to learn in the field, and it would be great to have what I have now 10 years ago. I think that would be such a leg up. Frankly, I don't know that I have a great answer on like where exactly, but I certainly would recommend going for something specific like the business aspect, maybe specifically around the entrepreneur track, as well as, because that's going to give you such a different perspective than a corporate advertising track versus like the homegrown marketing, social media, blog post, SEO. That's just so specific. So I would focus in on that kind of stuff first.
At the time when I went to college, we didn't have business of photography classes, which I wish we did. Like once we graduated, they're like, good luck starting a business, So I know that now that a lot of the curriculums have changed and they have business of photography classes and just how to start a business and how to like create a website. And people are doing that in college before they even leave college now. So I think you can learn a lot, at least take business art classes. And I think the best experience I had was just working for another working photographer out of school. I basically ran this entire photo studio in West Hollywood. I did everything but sign checks. I probably knew more about the back end of like what worked and didn't work with marketing. And the great part about it was that I was, using someone else's money to learn some very valuable mistakes that I then, when I started my business, was like, not going to do that, not going to do this, not going to do that. And so I was able to kind of see what worked and didn't work and like tracking leads and doing stuff for another photographer. And that was really valuable for me, just to see how like nobody teaches you the behind the scenes of the kind of boring admin stuff and contracts and like how to deal with clients and how to network and take out wedding coordinators for lunch or whatever it is. And you learn that just by watching other photographers. So I think working underneath somebody, even as an internship, is like probably the most valuable thing you can do.
I get a lot of people email me and say like, I want to become a photographer. What do I do? What do I study? Photography and this and that. And, Laura is classically trained, which is awesome. I was kind of self-taught. And one of the things I tell people is, if you want to be successful as a photographer, I do believe that it is as important, if not more important, to understand business and marketing than photography. And I know some people who are just amazing photographers who are out of business because, like Laura said, you have to be everything. You have to understand how to be an admin. I was driving yesterday over to the post office on a print order I had to ship out. Good print order from Zenfolio. Yay. So I got the email, processed it, printed it here, and got it shipped. And I'm driving over there thinking, like, literally, we're shipping, receiving. Like, you have to do it all. And so understanding that timeliness is important, doing a couple extra prints that they didn't order just as like a little thank you, like, hey, sorry, it took me a couple extra days to process this for you. I threw a couple extra prints in there, whatever. Like, you have to think as a business person all the time. And your attitude and your responsiveness and the way that you handle the client and the way you are when you're shooting is as important as the photos you're taking. That's not to say that you could take something out of focus or crappy or bad lighting or bad backgrounds and all. You have to understand photography. But to be successful in this business, and this is where my marketing background, I have 25 years of marketing background. So for me to transition into a photography business was not as difficult as like maybe Evan, where he had to then learn the business side after. I came from the other direction. I understood the business. I just had to learn good composition and good technique and good lighting and all that. And so I think they're equally important, but I do believe that for business, like Olie said, you've got to understand the business side and you have to work at it all the time.
Is there an advantage to joining the PPA?
This is where the spreadsheets come in. I've run the numbers and, I do it for the simple reason that it's cheaper to go with PPA because of their insurance that's covered than it is to go and get insurance solo. And if you go and you look and you don't do a lot of research, you could probably get it for the same amount. You could get insurance for your gear. It's like included up to 20K or something like that. And the same cost is gonna net out to be zero. So it's worth it just to go for PPA simply because of all the extra benefits that come with the PPA membership. And you're getting the insurance thrown in at the same cost, basically. So all the benefits of the membership are thrown in at no additional charge, and you're still getting insurance and coverage.
Great answer.
It's a clear, like it's clear, just do it because of the insurance.
Do they do liability certificates and stuff through their insurance for you? Okay.
Yeah, so what they include is they basically include just like your items, right? Your articles. So then you can just do all your gear is covered, and that's the net zero. Like the cost to get that is going to be the cost of the membership. In addition to that, they also have business liability, so that then you can do your certificates. You can add that on, but you would have to add that on anyways. So then it's all in one place under one insurance house. But they also include, I'm not sponsored by them, I've just done the research. They also include like lawsuit protection, something along those lines, where you kind of all pay in, and then some people get to use it if they get sued or a client comes after them or something like that.
I've never joined it. I do have my own insurance, and I don't know if their insurance covers international and all that, because when I do the Olympics, I need it for that. So I'm kind of specific, and I bug my insurance people all the time for certificates, because many of the venues, and you guys know this, when you go to shoot somewhere, they're like, hey, we need $1 million liability. So I don't know if you can reach out to them and get that, which I do like. You know, it is nice having a PPA. I know a lot of people do on their business card say member of PPA. I don't know if that matters or not. I think the quality of our work probably matters more. But my answer would be similar to Evan's, other than the fact that I do insurance separately. But that would be the one reason I would look into it, is probably for insurance reasons.
What is one business tactic or strategy that you wish you would have learned or adopted sooner, and why?
I think that not paying for advertising, I would have done way earlier. I think in the beginning when I started my business, you get hounded by like The Knot and like all these different magazines that want you, and you feel like you have to do it. And I realized really quickly that if I had just taken that money and like, taken some coordinators out to lunch, or use that to like print a book for a hotel, or done like a styled shoot at a property that I really wanted to start getting referrals from, something like that, that money would have gone so much further, because a magazine or an advertisement, it's like a one-time thing. Like you're going to just get a certain amount of eyeballs at one time. But if you use that money in schmooze or whatever you want to call it, like a coordinator, that's like they're going to send you referrals for years if they like working with you. So it's kind of just a better return of investment if you do that. I would have learned that. And the other thing too is that you have a lot more control than you realize in the beginning of like what kinds of jobs you want and where. Had I known that I could, if I wanted to start shooting more in Malibu, I could have just set up shoots in Malibu and started just contacting coordinators in Malibu. And then like I could have created referrals there instead of just like blasting out to everyone, like, this is what I do, and like just hoping someone hires me somewhere and like having no control over it. I think that in the beginning, you're just kind of afraid and you need to make money and you just say yes to everything, and you don't realize that you could actually be very like more specific and targeting. So those are the two things I wish I had learned earlier.
I think something that I should have done earlier is budgeting. Like I was terrible about, like where I felt like I was making a lot of money, and so I was spending a lot of money, and I was buying the good stuff, and I was intentionally investing it back into my business. But I just wish I would have like started saving more early on, and investing a little bit more of that into. I'm the opposite. I wish I would have done a little bit more paid advertising, especially on social media. The attention back then, 7 years ago, 7 years ago was much cheaper than it is now. And so I just wish I would have done more to grow that side of things like earlier, and use that as more of like a platform to launch onto, and build that up faster. And then by now I would be in less debt and less like things going on. I've recently jumped onto like the Dave Ramsey bandwagon like a year or so ago. So my whole thing about budgeting and how things could be better by not spending every time you make, that's changed me a lot lately.
Priorities and investment, right? That's kind of what I noted, really just saying like the things that I want to spend more time on. I mean, Laura said it earlier, like, graft your work around where you want to spend your time and what kind of schedule you want to have. So for me, it would be, what are the things that I want to spend my time on? I've got a family with 3 kids, and so family is really high for me. And so I want to spend time doing that, which means that I can't be doing some of the other stuff that I'd like to be doing, but that I don't have time for. So for me, priorities and investment are kind of linked. I need to choose. I wish I'd done this a lot earlier. I do it now pretty consistently, but there were years in the middle where I just didn't. And I was trying to do everything myself. So choosing the things that matter the most, and then basically outsourcing or cutting the things that matter less, and just making the hard decisions. I wish I had been able to, I wish someone had just come in and spread out all the things I was doing and said, what's most important, pick them, and then just go, and then decide whether these other things need to even be on the table. If yes, then who else is going to do them for you?
I would say not so much budgeting, although like I'm not an accountant, trust me, like I'm the worst when it comes to that stuff. But just, I used a spreadsheet, honest to God, for like the first 9 years of my business. And so I didn't do contracts. I didn't do deposits. I just did things really backwards. And I was okay with that. I never got stiff by anybody, so I was kind of okay with it. But what I realized after a while is, man, I'm not organized, and I didn't know how to calculate sales tax on albums and all that. So, for me, getting a CRM system to organize me was like godsend for me, because as a creative person, I can be creative and I can be good at business and marketing, which I'm good at. The other stuff I suck at. So like I needed something to keep me organized for calendaring and contracts and deposits and whether someone paid. I mean, there were times we would ship an album to someone, and then like a month later, they called me up like, hey, do we have to pay you for this? I'm like, oh, do we not invoice you? Like, bad. So that's a couple $1,000s, right? That's just sitting out there. Yeah. So now I can run reports and go, oh, wait, this one's past due or whatever. So yes, that was my big thing, was getting organized.
What is the importance of having a website over just using social media for your business?
We talked about the amount of content. Social media to me, and if you guys haven't watched Social Dilemma, watch it. It'll change your philosophy on social media. Social media is a double-edged sword for me. I love it and hate it. I don't spend a lot of time on it anymore just because it just bugs me. So I use it for business. I post images. I like interacting with people that way. I don't scour it and watch what everybody else is doing. I mean, I'm on it maybe 20 minutes a day. But the thing is, to me, social media is a way for me to reach out. But my website is my brand. So like I always tell people, in the old days, you drive by a building and you'd see, Apple computer on a building, and you're like, wow, they must be successful because they have this giant building. Well, the website today is our building. People go to my website. A client just emailed me yesterday. They're looking to hire me for something next month. And, it's a family thing, an event. The mom is the one who contacted me, and I send pricing and it goes straight to dad. And of course, being a guy, we're all like, oh, how much does that cost and why? Well, the dad actually said, hey, I looked at your website and your work is amazing and I love it. Okay, good. I can now say, okay, this is why I charge what I charge, right? The website is what sets my brand and hopefully sets me apart from other people. And everything about my homepage is thought through. What images come up in which order? Like Olympics first, to say to people, hey, I'm an Olympic photographer. But next one might be a bar mitzvah or wedding. Hey, I do that too. And then a portrait. So like I try to think about in that first 30 seconds that I have them, what am I going to show them? And literally an hour ago, I updated my family portrait page. So I've been doing a lot more family portraits recently with COVID, some with masks. Okay, fine. I'm gonna throw some of those on there. So literally I try to keep it updated, and I think that's really important too. So it is where you show off what you do. And I think that's vitally important, most important thing.
I use social media to like promote my work, and I use it to like drive traffic to that website. A lot of people will go to my booth at an event, and we have a whole crew set up to do, the photos for them to print on site and all that. So a lot of them will show up and they will already have their phones in hand. They'll have gone through my website, favorited all their ones they want printed, and they'll just walk up to us ready to make an order, or they'll just place an order right there on and then come and print it on site, and they'll just come pick it up. All they have to do is say, I want to pick this up, in the Zenfolio order system, and it's super straightforward for them, super easy to do. That's something that you just can't do. It's not very easy. Like I do 10,000 images a weekend, or sometimes 20 or 30,000. And that's not something that you can just post on Facebook and expect somebody to browse through all those and then find their photos and that whole thing. I like to just get them off of social media. That's where their attention is. And so that's where I'm plucking their attention from, is from there. And then, because we can track all that stuff, and I'm not super crazy about the spreadsheets and all that, but I watch where my traffic's coming from, and a lot of it is from social media, Facebook specifically with my customers. And so it's just huge to have both. But that website, that's where they find their photos, that's where they spend the money. That's where, instead of having to like compile all their photos into like an album of sorts and then send them a Facebook message, because everybody's, I get these questions all the time. They're like, can you send me my proofs? Like, I want to see my pictures. And instead of that, I just say, yeah, I got an autoresponder that says, go to the website, sort of thing. So that's been good.
That's exactly it. I have an autoresponder, like, don't talk to me on Facebook. I'm so glad that you're on Facebook. Don't talk to me on Facebook. Go talk to me on my website.
That's right.
Email me directly, something like that. Because, you can't monitor all the channels unless you got someone dedicated to that. You just can't do it. And as a one-man shop, like it's not an option, right? Priorities, where I'm going to take the time to spend it on that. Social media for me is just a funnel, right? It's where everyone is. That's where the eyeballs are. That's where people's attention is. So I want to be there. I want to be present, but I want to take them from there and bring them to the controlled environment where they go through an experience, right? The website is your digital handshake, and it's experience that you kind of curate where they start and then where they go. And so that's where I want to direct them to, versus social media. You're in this zone of like scroll, 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 double tap, scroll, scroll. And that's not how I want them to experience my work, right? So I'm going to getting them over. And the other thing why social media is important, but I wouldn't spend all my eggs in that basket, because it's their algorithms. It's their content. Once you put your stuff on there, it's on their site, and they can show it or not based on how they have changed or updated their online software. So Facebook has their own algorithms on how they're going to present your work. Same thing with Twitter, same thing with Insta. So, once you put it on there, it's in that arena, and it's, they have the option to change all the algorithms later on too. So keeping it in a controlled environment within the experience that you provide for your customers is really, really important, because you can't count on a social media site to, one, respect your work or create the environment that you've created and keep it that way. So
the other thing on social media is you don't know how long social media will last. So like our website, my Zenfolio site's been around for more than 10 years, right?
Hashtag MySpace.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If you were on MySpace right now and talk about, hey, I'm on MySpace, I have 10,000 followers, it's irrelevant. And honestly, 3 years from now, if you say I have 50,000 people on Facebook, people might laugh. Like if you said MySpace today, we don't know what will happen with those platforms. We do know what will happen with our website.
Okay, so I mainly use Facebook, Instagram, and then my website. So I agree with everything Evan said. I think my website is sort of like the experience. People can learn more about you, see videos, purchase, that's where kind of like the purchasing platform is. I will say that social media gives you that direct personal response. I think I get more engagement from my Instagram stories and even my feed. People just want to see what I'm up to and what it's like behind the scenes of a shoot. And if you have more than 10,000 followers, you can do swipe ups to links and things. So I do that a lot. And I find that people are just mindlessly scrolling, but people are watching. Like I have many times I'll have like a meeting with an important client or someone that hasn't even hired me yet. And they just like talk to me about what they just saw on my Insta stories. Like they've been doing their research and stalking me. Right. So I think it's really important that like, just because you don't see it translate into sale doesn't mean people aren't watching you and people aren't following you. I think it's important to have social media because it helps people decide sometimes between who they're going to hire. It could be based on personality. It could be based on just how much you post. If you can be like an added bonus to their brand by posting a lot, that might be a decision maker if they hire you versus another photographer. So I think as much as I hate social media, I feel like it's feeding like a hungry child a few times a day that you just don't really feel like dealing with. Like that's what I feel like social media is. But Facebook is like a bulletin board for me. I use it to just like post events and post like, check out this article or this press about me or like blah, blah, blah. And then you can also do that through Instagram and connect to the Facebook. So I use them all three for different reasons. But Instagram can also create sales. So if you create a catalog of your products in Facebook, you can link it to Instagram and you can tag them. So I could put my hats first, a picture of my hat on my Instagram, and someone can click on it and go directly to where they can buy it on my website. And that's a really powerful tool. They don't have to go through a bunch of pages on my website. They can see a photo of it they like as they're scrolling at night and go and click on it and buy it. And I think that's a really powerful thing to not ignore.
How do you protect your images from theft on websites and social media?
I put a nasty watermark on Zenfolio. It's huge. It covers up most of the photo and it annoys a lot of people, but it does kind of drive the point across. I still see people screenshot that, put it in a horse sale catalog, goes to press. On social media, I just don't post anything that people haven't already bought, or it's not something that, I don't like love and like want to share that. It's got to be something really cool, but mostly I just share stuff that people already purchased. As far as stuff that goes on social, my social media manager has access to my Zenfolio, which is great. I can go in there and check the boxes of stuff that she has access to and stuff she doesn't, so we can limit her that way. But she can just go through and look at all the stuff that people have bought pictures of and just grab from there and post it on social, and then there's no worries about somebody stealing it because they already bought it.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of it. I want people to share my stuff. If I put anything on social media, it's not going to ever be good quality for them to print anywhere anyway. So I love it when people steal and repost. I think it's just, usually they tag, for the most part, people will tag you. So I think that's fine. I don't love watermarks because I've found that I do a lot of travel writing, and a lot of websites, or even like Huffington Post or, Forbes, or people, like sometimes they will repost images of mine in their stories. They always ask permission, but they immediately don't even consider you if you have a watermark on your picture. So when people are out searching for images, that can be a deterring factor. And I'd love to have more eyeballs, but I'm on the other side where I'm like, please share my stuff. Like, I'd love to see it wherever.
Do you have to dedicate yourself to one area of photography to be successful?
For certain people, it's good to specialize. And if you're new at the business, it's good to specialize and really hone your skills at whatever you want, event photography or portrait or whatever. But once you kind of get good at that, I like kind of branching out and trying something different. So, but I'm not the norm. I'm definitely an anomaly in this business, in that, I teach wildlife photography. I do the Olympics. I do personal events. I do portraits. I do landscapes. I do, so I just love photography. So I'm probably the wrong one to ask, but I think, I guess I'm proof in some respects that you can do a lot of different types of photography. Like if you look at my Zenfolio page, I look like the ADHD photographer, right? Because I have so many different types of stuff out there, but it works for me. And that's not to say it would work for everybody.
Me, I'm the other. I focus in, right? When I talk about, like, I'm a very clear elevator pitch. Hey, I'm Evan Chung. I'm a Bay Area wedding photographer. That's it. That's what I focus on. Yes, I do all the other stuff. I do events. I do family. I do seniors. I do boudoir. I do engagement. I do all the other portrait work that you can do, right? But I'm a wedding photographer because that's what I want to be known for. That's where my bread and butter is. That's more the income for me as a business person also is. So that's what I want to market myself as, right? So for even in the website experience, I will funnel them through a wedding photographer experience. Although I put other stuff, I nest it a little bit lower in my website because I want them to experience my wedding stuff first.
How do you feel about selling your photos on stock imaging sites?
The only thing about it is that, I love getting royalty checks. That's like the fun part. But I will say that, I could be proactive in like knowing where all my images end up. I will say that when you sell it to stock, it's fair game. Like they're selling it to so many different places. So my images, I was like in Montana and I saw my image on like a gift, like a card, like, on that was being sold at a store, and it's like random. Anyway, I don't know how you say there's no money in it. I don't look, it's not my main bread and butter, but I will say that I definitely make, money every quarter off of it, and I'm not gonna while I'm sleeping. So I think stock is great. You just have to have a good system of sending your stuff to stock. Every time I do a trip, I just know the next day I'm going to pick out my favorite images, send it off to stock. I have like my assistant like caption them, whatever. And it's just a part of my process, or else it becomes overwhelming. If you're spending hours on it and you're paying an assistant, then it doesn't maybe make sense for you. But people have found my images on stock and hired me for a job. So the Board of Tourism of Saba Island in the Caribbean like had no photos of their island. And like literally when you Google it, like all my images come up, and they hired me to come back on a second trip just to photograph the island based off of a stock image they saw. And so I will say that when you're with a stock agency, they do all the metadata and the magic work, and like they flood the internet with your work. And so it will help you go up in like Google listings and your work to be found. So there is something good there too.
Where can people go to find you, to buy your amazing hats? Where should they go to follow you?
Type it in. Okay, so it's andeanahats.com, ANDEANA, like Indiana Jones in the Andes Mountains. They're all hand-shaped alpaca wool made in Peru, and I've been working with these amazing Quechua artisans with my work through National Geographic's catalog and shooting for them. And I started this business in partnership with them to bring all these amazing hats here and help support the Quechua artisans. So they're really cool. All the bands have different meanings in Quechua, and you can mix and match the intention bands, and yeah, it's really exciting. My wedding photography is beautifulday.photography, and my personal like fine art travel is just my name, Laura Grier, GRIER.com.
It's www.evanchungphoto.com.
Fcable.com. So JEFFCABLE.com. You can get to everything from there, your portfolio, blog, or whatever.
oliesimmages.com. That's OLIES images.com. And that's where you're going to find all my event stuff, my horse and rodeo stuff. And then after that, if you want to learn more about equine photos, go to equinephotoschool.com.
We will be back next month, the first Wednesday of every month here on Wide Angle Wednesday. Until then, I'll see all of you guys later. Take care. Thanks, guys.